How's it going, Laser Bruises? I'm Sixkilla and welcome back to Root Double. I think I've calmed down since the last one a little bit. So basically, now that Yuri is being trained to use BC to the highest level, she's been asked by Miyoko Tenkawa to erase the memories of herself from Natsuhiko to save him from his catatonia, which was her fault in the first place. Let's not get into that because I'm going to get annoyed again. Let's carry on. He was laid on a bed in the neuroscience laboratory. Yuri and the professor stood next to him and looked at his face. Natsuhiko didn't respond to Yuri's presence. His eyes were shut. He was put to sleep with drugs. If you manipulate his memories now, he'll never even be aware of it. It still took some time for Yuri to find her resolve. After a long period of silence, she spoke resolutely. I'll do it. Okay, please begin. Alright. Yuri nodded and looked at the sleeping boy's face. Looks like it's time to say goodbye, Hikiden. Yuri's mind was calm. She resolved herself to be calm at least just this once. Even if you forget about me, I'll never forget about you, Hikiden. No matter how sad or lonely the rest of her days would be. She burned the image of his sleeping face into her mind, lest she forget about this day. Goodbye. Finally, Yuri reached out her hand and touched Natsuhiko's forehead. Just then, countless visions floated before Yuri's eyes. They were memories that were not her own. Rather, they were Natsuhiko's memories of her. Yuri peered into the first of them. I'm trying to not get emotional about this. It was the memory of the day Yuri and Natsuhiko first met. Hey, why are you crying? Huh? Who are you? I'm Natsuhiko. Natsuhiko? You're Yuri Katono, right? Your family just moved in nearby? Yeah. Let's be friends, we live in the same neighborhood, after all. It was a memory that Yuri fondly remembered herself. Except this time she saw it through Natsuhiko's point of view. It sure brings me back, Hikiden. You surprised me at first, you know. You called out to me so suddenly that you seemed like the kind of a rough boy to me. But you know, I was happy. Because thanks to you, every day after that was a fun day for me. But she couldn't just keep gazing at this memory forever. Yuri focused hard to erase this memory, and soon enough the vision grew hazy. But he didn't lose that memory. You're Katono, right? He had all his memories of her. He experienced it, and it disappeared. At the same time, Yuri heard what sounded like Natsuhiko screaming. Even though he was stupefied, he probably still felt the damage of memory erasure. I'm sorry, Hikiden, I'm so sorry. Yuri hardened her heart and transferred her consciousness to the next memory, upon which a different vision floated before her. What do you want to be when you grow up, Yuri? It was a memory of a conversation they had quite a while after they met. Yuri thought, oh, I almost forgot this happened. When I grow up? There's a lot of things I want to be, so I can't just choose. When I grow up, I want to be your bride, Hikiden. What? Is that a no, Hikiden? Do you hate me? No, I don't hate you, but it was a silly conversation that only young children could have. Hikiden was so embarrassed. How cute. Yuri felt a little embarrassed herself, but unfortunately this memory could not be allowed to remain. Yuri wished hard for it to disappear. And thus yet another memory of Yuri vanished from Natsuhiko's brain. Okay, that's 2 down. Her work was proceeding smoothly, and yet Yuri's heart throbbed in intense pain. She avowed as if with each memory she erased, she tore open a void in her own mind. Even though it wasn't her own memory she was erasing, there's still lots more to go. I gotta keep it up. Yuri encouraged herself to continue with her work. Man, that sure was interesting. Yeah, we read all the way to the end. Is this a picture of your mum, Natsuhiko? Huh? Oh, yeah. There's one thing that makes me glad I was born a communicator. Huh? No, it's because that's how I met you. If I wasn't a communicator, I never would have moved to this town. One by one, the visions came. One by one, she erased them. One by one, she killed all traces of herself within Natsuhiko. With each memory she erased, Natsuhiko suffered intense pain. And the pain in Yuri's heart grew little by little as well. But eventually, she'd erased just about all of the relevant memories, including the one of them coming to Labo just a few months ago. There's just one more memory. One more memory and I will have vanished from Hikarin's mind. Yuri withstood the pain in her heart to peek into his final memory. But Yuri gasped when she saw the vision that spread out before her. It was a vast night sky filled with stars all the way across the heavens. The two children looked up at the Milky Way that nostalgic summer night. The stars sure are pretty, huh? Yeah. Natsuhiko responded to Yuri's words. The two of them were next to each other. Natsuhiko held Yuri's hand tight as he spoke. Hey Yuri. Huh? I'll never forget what happened today. I'll never forget looking at the stars with you. Those were Natsuhiko's words. If Yuri but willed it, this memory would sink into the darkness. With that, everything would be wrapped up neatly, and yet, Yuri couldn't bring herself to do it. Me too. I don't want to forget either, Hikarin. Huh? Within Natsuhiko's memory, Yuri's tears streamed out. Even though such a memory was impossible, it seemed Yuri began to fabricate his memory within her transcendental ability, almost unconsciously. What's wrong, Yuri? I don't want to erase this memory. That was the honest desire she locked up deep within her heart. Her true feelings. Please, Hikarin, don't forget about me. With that final desire conveyed to Natsuhiko, Yuri returned to reality. When she was back, Yuri cried tears in the real world as well. And in her blurry vision, she saw Dr. Tenkawa peeking at her. Yuri? What's wrong? Did something happen? What do you think's fucking wrong, lady? Fucking hell. Could you be that emotionally stunted? I know you're a scientist, but fucking hell. Yuri shut her eyes tight and squeezed out an answer. I'm sorry, Professor. I can't do it. Yuri, what are you... The Professor tried to stop Yuri, but before she could, Yuri used sense sympathy once more. Only a single memory of Yuri remained, but all of the memories Yuri erased still remained deep within her heart of hearts. For the memories she erased were the memories they shared, which meant there was only one thing for her to do. Put them back. Hey, why are you crying? Yuri reconstructed the memory she'd erased based on her own knowledge. She restored memory after memory. I want to be your bride, Hikarin. Yeah, we read all the way to the end. Is this a picture of your mum, Natsuhiko? There is one thing that makes me glad I was born a communicator. Well, it's because it's how I met you. She was restoring Natsuhiko's memory in a matter of moments. But doing so would mean Natsuhiko would once again know about Yuri's death. And then he would once again blame himself and shatter his mind. So Yuri made a resolve. You've got no choice but to replace the me that's gone with the me that's there. She created the false Yuri. Yuri dove into Natsuhiko's memory of that fateful night. The night Natsuhiko learned of Yuri's death 3 months prior. Natsuhiko, please calm down and listen carefully. Yuri breathed her last breath last night. Huh? No way. Why did Yuri... In reality, Natsuhiko screamed after this. That was likely the very moment his mind lost its balance. In that case, his memory just needs to be changed. Yuri focused to do just that. To change his memory into a new one. And then Natsuhiko screamed, holding back his tears. It's a lie, Yuri can't be dead. He jumped out of his bed and ran off. He ran down the hall, searching for Yuri. Yuri, you're around, aren't you? Please come out. No matter how many neighbouring rooms he called out to, he got no response. Natsuhiko rushed out of the hospital in search of Yuri. He aimlessly wandered about town, but he couldn't find her anywhere. Not at her house, not at the park where they met, nor their nostalgic secret base. Yuri? Yuri? When he tired of searching, the last place Natsuhiko headed was his own home. The house was steeped in darkness. Natsuhiko blankly called out her name. Yuri? But obviously he didn't expect to get an answer. However, just then, from across the dark room, Hikarin. Yuri's voice called out in reply. Yuri? Natsuhiko rushed up to her. Thank goodness you're alive. You thought I was dead? But Mum was saying weird things. I'm not dead at all. Yuri smiled at Natsuhiko. See, Hikarin, I'll always be right here. I'll always be with you. So please don't forget about me. Those are the words she couldn't tell him in the real world. But they were the words both Yuri and Natsuhiko wished for. Even if those words were a lie, they sank deep into Natsuhiko's mind. And drove away the truth. There's no way I'd ever forget. Makes sense. Once everything was complete, Yuri returned to reality. The professor murmured in a hollow voice, "Yuri? I'm sorry, Professor. I couldn't do it." Yuri felt genuinely sorry. She knew what she'd done was inexcusable, but that's fine. The professor's voice was kind, which only served to deepen the pain in Yuri's heart. "Let's go before Natsuhiko wakes up." Okay. They quietly left the laboratory, leaving Natsuhiko behind. She didn't tell her that she'd rewritten his memory, though. Natsuhiko was astonished. That was the whole story of what had happened to him. A complete record of a truth, unrevealed to him even when he had dived into Mashiro's memory. I was only able to wake up from my stupefaction because of Yuri. But what happened as a result of her efforts? Of course, Natsuhiko himself was well aware of exactly what happened to him after that. But even so, in order to affirm the entire truth, he perused Yuri's memories further. The next thing Natsuhiko saw was far into the future than what he saw last. A memory of the recent past. Natsuhiko naturally knew just how much time had passed. It's 9 years after that day, huh? Yes, this is a memory of just about 2 months ago. That day, Yuri was in her own room in Labo, having a talk with the professor. July 7th has come and gone this year, huh? That was quick. Has it really been 9 years already? In all that time, Yuri had grown both physically and mentally. As a test subject, Yuri had proven to be a major contribution to Labo's developed products, especially in the fields of AD development and BC insulator improvement. She had not a single worry and spent her days in true peace. Yuri, how have these 9 years been for you? Very fucking lonely, I imagine. Huh? Well, they were fun. You bought me anything I ever wanted, and I get to live in such a nice room, too. The only luxury she wasn't afforded was the freedom to go outside, but she'd already stopped thinking about it. And besides, you're really nice, Professor. All the little things make me happy. You're like a real mum to me. Yuri. The professor wrapped her arms around Yuri's shoulders. At least she's a real mum to someone. Sure as shit not Natsuhiko. Just as Yuri had said, the professor showered her with unrestrained love. The origin of that love was almost certainly due to the guilt she felt for Yuri. But regardless, the two of them forged a relationship akin to a real mother and daughter. They shared a deep understanding of each other. But now that today has come, we really do need to start thinking about Hikiden, right? Indeed. Now that day has come, there was something they were keenly reminded of, whether they wanted to think of it or not. Ever since that night when Yuri had manipulated his memories, Natsuhiko had started seeing a phantom of her. 9 years ago, Yuri fabricated a false memory for Natsuhiko that she was alive and always with him. And as a part of that fabrication, she chose not to restore some of his memories, such as the particulars of the incident and how his BC abilities had awakened. It was a very selfish use of memory manipulation, one that left a scar on his mind. The human's personality consists of an accumulation of memories. The spirit is the aggregation of information within the brain. The addition of fabricated memories created decisive inconsistency with reality, so in order to reconcile that inconsistency, Natsuhiko's brain created a phantom Yuri to restore the mental balance. With just minor tampering to his memory, Natsuhiko became so firmly adherent to those lies that even his perception of reality became warped. Over these past 9 years, Yuri had become painfully aware of the sheer magnitude of the effects memory manipulation had on the human mind. Tell me, Professor, was I right to do what I did? I can't say whether it was right or wrong, but it was true that you had no other choice. It was probably too hard for you to completely erase all his memories of you with perfect accuracy to begin with. Huh? We didn't really know it yet back then, but as our research progressed, we established that there are several issues with memory erasure, haven't we? Such as how in almost all cases erased memories are eventually restored. Good point. Memories are lumps of powerful information energy, and memory erasure is an ability that destroys that lump of energy by striking it with even stronger energy, which in turn causes the memory to disperse into fragments that are impossible to remember. However, the fragments of the memory and the memory in its entirety do not completely disappear. With the passage of enough time and given some sort of impetus, the brain can restructure the fragmentary information and restore the memory. The target's reaction is also significant. After all, sudden amnesia would astonish just about anyone to the point where they'd be driven to try and recall the vanished memory by whatever means necessary. And besides, after you and Natsuhiko met, you were always together. Even if you forcibly erased all his memories, there'd be no doubt that somebody would eventually bring you up as a matter of discussion. And once that happened, Natsuhiko would notice the contradiction between his memories and reality, and would reach another deadlock with the truth. There was no other way to break the cycle than to do what you did. Just as the professor said, it was found to be far easier to cope with memory manipulation than memory erasure. When a certain memory is replaced with a different memory, the brain obediently accepts the change. The reason for that is rather than undergoing amnesia, the target may experience various other phenomena such as believing they simply remembered wrong. Well, everybody's memories are constantly changing. Like, every time you remember a memory, it's slightly different to the last time you remembered it. It keeps changing. Nobody's memories are really that factual over a long enough period of time. But Yuri was well aware of what she'd done. I'm sorry, Professor, but that's not all there was to it. When she was a child, Yuri couldn't bear having Natsuhiko forget about her. But as a result, she had to keep cleaning up the mess she'd made. As Yuri reflected upon her actions, the Professor suddenly looked at her watch. Oh my, it's almost time for that boy to arrive. Ah, right. Let's go, Yuri. It's time for your yearly date. Yuri nodded and left the room with the Professor. They headed for Area 5 Neuroscience Laboratory. There, Yuri reunited with Natsuhiko. Oh, do they actually still do that every year, and then she just erases his memory of it? That's kind of brutal, but at least it's nice for Yuri, I suppose. It's been a whole year, hasn't it, Hikaden? In front of them was Natsuhiko, put to sleep with drugs. Labo staff had brought him all the way here. Oh, okay. Yuri, you'd rather be alone with him, wouldn't you? I'll be waiting outside. Yes, thank you. The Professor smiled boldly as she left the room. You want to bang him, right, while he's sleeping? We put some Viagra in his other drugs. Go wild. Back on the night where Yuri agreed to her incarceration in Labo, she'd asked the Professor for one favour. Please let me see him, even just once in a while. Even just once a year, please. That's all I ask. I promise. The Professor kept that promise. Once each year on July 7th, the anniversary of the accident, Yuri was allowed to see him in this fashion. Granted, Natsuhiko himself was not aware of these little dates. He was under the impression that he stayed at the Rokume City Hospital once a year for a yearly checkup. And once he was there, he'd be administered with sleeping medication and taken to Labo, and back again before he woke up. This is the only way we can meet, but it's plenty. However, the purpose of these reunions weren't only so she could see his face. He was brought here once a year to renew the memory of Yuri that was inside him. The phantom Yuri created by his brain was, after all, a phantom, and nothing more. If no action was taken, the phantom Yuri would gradually become disparate from the real Yuri. This was, in essence, maintenance to adjust for changes and disparities. Such was the truth of Natsuhiko's yearly checkups. I'm not quite sure if this is really for Hikaden's sake. And to be honest, I'm glad I get to see him. Forgive me, Hikaden. Yuri gently bowed her head and stepped up to Natsuhiko. How was your year? And thus, Yuri dove into Natsuhiko's memory. A year's worth of memories floated in Natsuhiko's mind. There were sights of an uneventful daily life. Natsuhiko, food's ready. Oh, sorry for always making you do this. It's fine, I'm doing it because I want to see your smiling face. It was a scene of a morning before school. Ah, it's Mashido. Yuri loved Mashido too. Though it was only in a memory, Yuri was honestly glad to see Mashido again. There you go, joking again. It's not for me, but for Yuri, right? Saw through my ruse. Apparently Mashido began cooking meals at Natsuhiko's house this spring. But these newest memories include a lot of memories with Mashido. Come on, Natsuhiko, we're gonna be late. I'm sorry, I ate too much during breakfast. Each individual memory was trivial by itself. Natsuhiko, come shopping with me. There's just a few things I want to buy. Well, more anime shop visits. Why not? Not like you're busy, right? Something bothered Yuri about Mashido's facial expressions in these memories. Natsuhiko, look at this. Cute, right? So what you wanted to buy was clothes? Look, I don't really get girls' clothes. I just want a boy's opinion. I want to get a less biased view, that's all. The way Mashido looked to, spoke to, and behaved with Natsuhiko made it quite obvious she was falling in love with him. Well, yeah. Mashido. She likes Hikaden? Mashido's best girl. As Yuri returned to reality, she gazed at Natsuhiko's sleeping face and whispered, "That's right. I can't keep Hikaden to myself forever." It'd be way too cruel to do that to Mashido. Mashido's a way better girl than I am, after all. Hikaden's better off with her. At any rate, Yuri would never be able to properly see Natsuhiko in person for the rest of her life. Is she going to be locked in here when she's like 50? Surely you can't keep her in there when she's an adult as well. It was already unnatural for her to be seeing him this way as it was. In that case, both Natsuhiko and Mashido would be better off if they forgot about Yuri. That thought began to rapidly spread within Yuri's mind. She walked out of the laboratory with slumped shoulders to find the professor waiting in the hall. Yuri, how was your yearly date? Professor, do you think it would be better if I replaced all of Hikaden's memories with memories of Mashido? What makes you say that again? It's just, if I don't, then Mashido will never... Are you worrying yourself over Mashido? Yuri nodded weakly. But after a moment of contemplation, the professor shook her head and replied, "It would probably be bad to do that." "Why is that?" "I believe that manipulating Natsuhiko's memories about you would cause serious problems in his mind." "Oh no, but if I do it carefully then..." "No, your existence is too important to Natsuhiko to just erase it. And even if that weren't the case, Natsuhiko's mind is already affected by innumerable problems." "Huh?" "So far, Natsuhiko has nearly noticed your absence several times, but he has yet to recognize it. That cognitive dissonance has resulted in bizarre behavior from him as well." "Bizarre behavior?" "For example, Natsuhiko has prepared hot milk for you in our living room before, correct?" "Yes." "But since you don't actually exist there, the milk in your cup never decreases in volume, see? But Natsuhiko never questions that fact. He empties the completely full cup of cold milk into the sink without a word. If you try to tell him that the cup's full, he just says, 'Huh? What?' It makes a genuinely confused face." "Is that a thing?" "It is. It's called denial syndrome, incidentally. He had several other instances of bizarre behavior. For example, every day before he leaves for school, he turns the living room lights on." "The lights? Why?" "Because if he didn't, there'd be no lights at home by the time he got back. It wouldn't make sense if there were no lights on in the house, even though you were supposed to be there. So to avoid that inconsistency, Natsuhiko turns on the light before he leaves the house, and he does it all unconsciously." Once she had heard all that, Yuri murmured in a quivering voice, "Then all because of me, Hikari's... Well, it's not your fault. No, it's your fault, lady. It's your fucking fault." Denial syndrome often occurs when the brain encounters any sort of functional abnormality. Such cases have been reported worldwide. All of the bizarre behaviors Natsuhiko has demonstrated have been seen in other patients. So please, don't you ever say it's your fault again. That didn't stop the tears from flowing. The gravity of her actions 9 years ago threatened to crush Yuri. "Oh, I'm so mad. Professor, what can I do?" "Let's see, if Natsuhiko would have become strong enough to handle the truth one day, maybe it would be okay to tell him then. But how will we know when that time has come? We won't, so one day I'll free you from Labo. I swear." Yuri doubted her ears. She couldn't believe the leading researcher in the field of BC would say such a thing. Labo will no longer have a reason to restrain you once we've solved all the mysteries surrounding BC. I intend to devote my life to make sure that happens. I doubt it'll redeem me for the sin of destroying your life, though. But you didn't... And even if I can't fulfill that promise, I will gladly do whatever I can to get you out of here, even if it costs me my life." "Huh?" "Truth be told, I've been secretly advancing preparations for such a plan." She's the terrorist! I need a minute. Okay. It's not something I can do alone, so it'll be a difficult journey, but one day for sure. The professor spoke remorsefully as she brought Yuri into a gentle embrace. Yuri understood that it was another wish that could not be granted. For the two of them had been together for 9 years, Yuri could tell the professor felt hopeless, even without using BC. BC research is endless, and I'm sure there are other reasons why they keep me incarcerated. Not that I can imagine what those reasons are, because you can destroy people's minds whenever you feel like it. But regardless, she questioned whether or not she had to stay there forever. She questioned how to free Natsuhiko and Mashido from the curse she cast over them. Well, without her finding a single answer to any of those questions, the days passed by. And then came the day of fate, roughly 2 months after Tanabata, September 16th, 2030. Early morning that day, Yuri went with Dr. Tenkawa to the neuroscience laboratory. "Sorry for starting your day so early, Yuri." "It's okay, we're doing a very important experiment today, aren't we?" "Indeed, it'll be a long stretch from around 9 till 12, so let's give it our best. Before the experiment, we need to examine your brain. Please change into the testing clothes." Miyoko handed Yuri a change of clothes. In the surrounding area, the professor's colleagues were busy preparing for the examination. "Scanning preparations complete. Send me the data from the previous 2 rounds." None of them showed any interest in seeing Yuri's naked body, but she still tried to find cover to change behind. But still, today's experiment is quite unusual, huh? The professor said it is to create a spirit, but is that even possible? The moment Yuri pondered the possibility, the phone rang. That's who the Yuri that was running around the, No, I don't know. What could that be? Puzzled, the professor picked up the phone. "Yes, Tenkawa speaking. We're in the middle of an experiment right now, so..." Before she could finish, the professor's face froze over. Natsuhiko did what? Huh? Yuri gasped too when she heard that name. As Yuri strained her ears to listen, the professor continued the phone call. Yes. What did you say? Mashido and Yui as well? Understood, I'll be heading over there right now. And with that, the professor hung up the phone. What happened with Hikiden? I'm not sure, but it looks like those three came to Labo. Huh? How? How indeed. And right as we're running an experiment. What in the world could he need at a time like this? Right as the professor spoke, the sound of an explosion rang out in the distance. Yuri was so taken by surprise that she dropped the testing clothes that she was about to change into. What was that sound? As if to answer that question, more and more sounds echoed forth. The automatic disaster prevention system broadcast an automated message. Intense tremors detected in B1 Area 1. Intense tremors detected in B2 Area 3. A fire has broken out in B1 Area 2. Intense tremors detected in B2 Area 2. Security has shifted to evacuation mode. All gates barring those leading to Area N have been opened. Yuri didn't really understand what was going on, but she did know that something terrible was befalling the facility. Professor? Yuri became frightened and walked up to her. The professor wrapped Yuri in a protective embrace, just as a clamorous broadcast echoed through the halls. This is an emergency broadcast. Explosions of unknown origins have occurred within the facility. From our current understanding of the situation, explosions occurred simultaneously in 10 different locations inside the facility. Fires have broken out as a result. The broadcast sent all the researchers panicking. Explosions in 10 different locations? Unknown origin? What do you mean unknown origin? The frightened Yuri clung to the professor. The professor embraced her shoulders back, and spoke. It's okay. The facility's equipped with layers upon layers of disaster prevention systems. No matter what happens, it shouldn't escalate to a large-scale disaster. Our safety is guaranteed, so there's no need to worry. She spoke in a voice calm to the core, as if she were trying to encourage Yuri. But why did this happen? Why indeed? There's no reason for an explosion to have occurred in this facility. It couldn't be terrorism. Terrorism? An anti-BC extremist group has been conducting acts of destruction within the city recently. Yesterday they blew up the PRC, and that was thought to have been the end of their string of crimes, but could it be their actual target was here? How did they find out this place is a BC research facility? Was there an information leak somewhere? No, the same goes for what their goal is. It is too dangerous for us to stay here, that's for certain. Yuri, let's evacuate somewhere safe. Okay. The professor took Yuri by the hand and left the laboratory. They ran up the emergency staircase and headed to B1 Area 5. Professor, where are we going? There's an emergency shelter here in Area 5. In truth, Area 0 is the safest place, but going there requires tedious formalities. The professor stopped and looked at the wall. There was a numeric keypad affixed to it. 107215. Okay, it opened. The professor entered what appeared to be a password, and the wall slid open, revealing a narrow passageway. They rushed up to the steel door deep inside and opened it. Yuri, I'm sorry, but hide yourself here. This place was designed to withstand minor explosions and fires. It's perfectly safe. Alright. I'll go investigate what's happening. And there's the issue with Natsuhiko too, so... Understand? Wait for me here, okay? Understood. Be careful. The professor nodded and left the shelter. Yuri was left there alone. The sound of explosions kept going on and on. Hikiden's here? Why would he come now of all times? Yuri was worried about them, but she couldn't just leave the shelter. If I could at least confirm their safety. As Yuri pondered about how to do that, it hit her. I know, I use BC. She could confirm Natsuhiko's current situation using sense sympathy. Furthermore, since the facility was now in evacuation mode, the BC insulated security gates were all wide open. Meaning she'd be, in theory, able to use BC on him, even if he was in a faraway area. Yuri focused her mind and tried using sense sympathy on Natsuhiko. At the moment her senses sympathized with Natsuhiko's, an intense headache struck. The pain Natsuhiko felt propagated to Yuri. The girls beside him looked at him in concern. Natsuhiko, do you have a headache again? Yeah, You okay, Natsuhiko? Hang in there. This headache... Yuri knew the truth behind that headache. It was a headache Natsuhiko would always get when his mind was on the verge of collapse. The moment that thought crossed her mind, they heard another explosion from nearby. Natsuhiko promptly covered for Mashido and Yui. 1 second later, a blazing wind shot by and all the kids were blown away. Are you two okay? They slowly got up after having fallen on top of each other. Yeah. I'm okay. The two groaned, but they appeared to be uninjured. Thank goodness. Yuri felt relieved as the three kids ran around searching for an exit. She didn't understand what their objective was, but Yuri had a lone desire. I need to get those three out of here as soon as possible. Yuri focused further and sent Natsuhiko telepathy. Intense telepathy that worked not only to create an auditory hallucination, but a visual one as well. Huh? Yuri? Oh man, I knew it. I was gonna say that before and then I cancelled myself. I was like, no, that can't be right. Because fucking Ukita tied her up and I thought either she made the phantom because they were talking about making the spirit or whatever, and that was what he was seeing running around, but then, you know, Watase saved her. So maybe some of it was the real one and some of it was a made up one. I don't fucking know. Ukita tied her up. Natsuhiko stopped in his tracks speechless. His eyes were no doubt seeing Yuri. Hikiden, why'd you come here? What about you, Yuri? Why are you here? You left home? Yuri was holding a conversation with him without issue. Though she was relieved, she had other thoughts on her mind as well. First, I need to find the reason why Hikiden came to Labo, and with that information I need to think of a way to get him to leave. Yuri immediately peered into Natsuhiko's memory. She looked through his memories of what he had experienced the previous few days. How he came across a traffic accident, how he met Sally, how he heard about the terrorists from Marshido, how they came to Labo to stop them. But we're one step behind and the terrorist attack proceeded. The watch that broke and stopped at the time left a severe impression. When she caught all the details, Yuri murmured in admiration and surprise. So that's what happened. Those words were heard by Natsuhiko, as well as via BC. What do I do? Now that she'd understood the situation, Yuri was at a loss for how to proceed. The first thing on the agenda would probably be to get them out safely, but there was something else that was equally important. Hikiden was trying to regain his memories. Natsuhiko had been tormented by his frequently chaotic memory for some time. He still lacked any of the preparedness to know the truth that the professor had talked about, but if he were to fall victim to his panic disorder or stupefaction in this situation, it would mean certain death. After all, he'd nearly gotten caught in an explosive blast mere moments ago. If something were to happen to him, then even Marshidon and Yui could get caught up in it. And even if the three of them did escape, Natsuhiko would eventually regain his memories of 9 years ago regardless, and then his mind would collapse yet again. In light of the impending crisis, there was only one path for Yuri to take. In that case, I'll start now, and manipulate Hikiden's memory to give him the strength he needs to handle the truth. She didn't know how much time was left, but it was something that needed to be done while she guided them down an escape route. It was the only way. Hikiden has so many people there to support him now. As long as Marshidon and Yui are there for him, I'm sure Hikiden can handle the truth. To get him to accept the truth and free him from her curse, except it's not even the truth. The truth you're trying to get him to accept is not true, it's a lie. I'll rewind time for Hikiden as many times as it takes. And thus, Yuri began manipulating Natsuhiko's memories. She guided him gradually towards mental preparedness. There were countless things she needed to do. First, she had to make Natsuhiko aware of his own growth. Next, she had to strengthen how he felt about his bonds with other people around him. In Hikiden's mind, time stopped 9 years ago. I've got to get it moving again. Natsuhiko's memories seemed to be slightly warped by the actions of his own brain. Even Yuri could clearly see that his impressions of Marshido and Sally were far worse than what they'd actually should be. Which was likely the result of how he'd closed his heart to others for many years, but if he kept that up, he would have no chance of handling the impending truth. And to that end, Yuri worked to mend Natsuhiko's impressions of the ones who supported him. Marshido and Sally in particular, to more fitting, favourable impressions. Yuri took extreme care to ensure that her modifications would seamlessly blend with reality. Meanwhile, Yuri also dropped some hints to the truth one by one. She hinted that, soon enough, his false peace would end and he would have to part with the Phantom. Natsuhiko was perplexed at first, but eventually he gained the strength to face the past. And as he overcame several crises, he was able to keep moving forward, even in Labo. Because Marshido and Sally were there for him. A case hen has just been detected. In accordance with this emergency, security has shifted to blockade mode, locking down all gates and bulkheads. Even when he encountered a case N announcement in Area 5, he did not despair. As she saw the results of Natsuhiko's progression, Yuri thought to herself, with this, Hikiden might be able to accept the truth. Natsuhiko's headache was gone as suddenly as it had come. His mental preparation was almost complete. All that's left is the finishing touch. The finishing touch. Make Natsuhiko realize the fact that Mashido had been supporting him all these 9 years. If only he knew, he'd be thankful for Mashido, and would perhaps be able to cope with Yuri's death. The problem was how to open the gate after it had locked down, but Yuri happened to see that the professor's security card had been dropped in the stairwell. Natsuhiko hadn't noticed it, so Yuri tried to inform him of it, but immediately after she did, there was an unforeseen turn of events. Natsuhiko had gone to Dr. Miyoko Tenkawa's office and found something. A file of newspaper articles covering the incident 9 years ago. Huh? Natsuhiko's body trembled. He looked towards Yuri in a daze. Oh no, it's still too early. And now that it's come to this, there's nothing I can do but gamble on Hikarin's mental strength. Yuri prepared herself and sent telepathy to Natsuhiko. Now you understand why I said I couldn't go with you, don't you? It was a conclusive statement heralding the end of a long dream. No. Natsuhiko's innermost thoughts propagated to Yuri as well. His confusion, sorrow, agitation, fear, and despair. But even so, Yuri continued. Hikarin, it's time to say goodbye. I'm sorry for deceiving you for so long. I wanted to support you, but I'm sure you'll be okay without me now. You've noticed it these past few days, haven't you? You're not alone, Hikarin. Yuri spoke sincerely to move Natsuhiko's heart, but her voice didn't get through to him. But when Yuri ceased the telepathy transmission and erased the phantom, Natsuhiko groaned faintly and screamed madly. No way, that still wasn't enough? Yuri fell into despair once more. She had no idea that the curse of hers that bound him was that strong. And then the door opened and Mashido rushed in. Natsuhiko? Natsuhiko heard a scream. What happened? Yuri? She disappeared. Natsuhiko flared up at Mashido, as if to spew out the sorrow of losing Yuri and the bitterness of having been lied to for 9 whole years. Yuri's gone, isn't she? She's been gone for 9 goddamn years. And you just played along with my madness, didn't you? Is this your idea of a joke? No. Both Natsuhiko and Mashido's eyes welled up with tears. And as she observed the situation through Natsuhiko's eyes, Yuri too was saddened. No, Hikarin, you mustn't hold it against Mashidon. She's been there supporting you all this time. Yuri was rife with regret. What should I have done? What should I do for Hikarin? But before Yuri could think of anything further, the unexpected happened. Suddenly, Natsuhiko's vision was engulfed in darkness. His consciousness was abruptly thrown into that endless darkness. Huh? What is this? Natsuhiko was astonished, but Yuri understood what was happening. No way. Hikarin sympathized with Mashidon's mind. The third ability, Sense Sympathy, had awoken within Natsuhiko. Though he had shown signs of it the previous night, it was still an unexpected but welcome surprise. That's it. Now Hikarin should be able to understand Mashidon's feelings. Natsuhiko peered into Mashido's memories, bewildered at what was going on. And thus, Natsuhiko learned the truth that Mashido had been caring for him all these 9 years. When he returned to reality, Natsuhiko tearfully apologized to Mashido. Mashido, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Huh? You've always been there to support me, haven't you? You've always been there for me, right by my side. As she listened in on their conversation, Yuri thought to herself, thank goodness. Now Hikarin and Mashidon are both truly free from my curse. I know her role was complete. With that feeling of closure, Yuri calmly disconnected from Natsuhiko's mind. Her own senses returned to her as soon as she did. What spread out before her eyes was an empty room, but the sight of the lonely room began to blur. Huh? Why am I... Yuri realized that she was crying. Natsuhiko was free from Yuri's curse, free to be with Mashido. She thought that was what she'd always wished for, and yet Yuri felt as if her heart had been torn in two. No, this is for the best. With that belief, Yuri wiped her tears. Just then, Yukita, she heard a knock on the shelter door. Professor? Yuri was taken aback and rushed over to the door. If the professor had returned, then Yuri wanted her shoulder to cry on. She was the only one who understood Yuri, the only one who shared her sadness, someone she could truly call Mum. But when she opened the door... Oh shit! She found not the professor but an unfamiliar man standing there. Finally found you. You're a person of interest to this lab, right? Who are you? I'm a rescue worker. I'm here to save you guys. His voice sounded familiar. It sent shivers of anxiety down his spine. Where have I heard that voice? She soon remembered. She heard that voice in Natsuhiko's memory. He was one of the terrorists. You're with Kiri. The man unintentionally gasped. For a moment his face froze over, but that face warped into a wicked expression. Hey, did you cheat and use BC to read my mind? Well, whatever, you're coming with me. And with that, the man grabbed Yuri by the arm. No, stop it. Please don't struggle. I won't have to get violent as long as you behave. It's very hard to take the man's words at face value. Then I'll just have to erase his... Yuri plotted to destroy the man's memory and run. But before she could, a pain ran through her neck. Ow! But she didn't understand what just happened. Yuri tried to use BC. Huh? And nothing happened. It was the AD. She couldn't destroy the man's memory. She couldn't even use sense sympathy itself at all. Why? I injected you with a BC inhibitor. Your abilities won't work on me now. No way! Without BC, Yuri was nothing but an ordinary, powerless skill. That's why she freaked out every time he went to inject her with... Well, they wanted to make her take the AD. That's why she because oh my god. As Yuri despaired, the man wrapped his arms around her neck. He applied pressure to her carotid artery. Yuri tried to shake him off, but the man was too strong for her to even budge an inch. Suddenly her sight blacked out. He couldn't... Marsh it on... As Yuri's consciousness faded away, she prayed that the others would safely escape here without encountering this man. And with that, we're going to wrap this episode up. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of things coming together. That's why she didn't want anyone to inject her with anything, because that's what he did to her, and that's why she was scared of him as well. Man, what a story. Jeez. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.